Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of It Starts With You. I'm the host, Anna Yoo, here with Eric Spivak, who is the founder of New Friendship Tech, as well as a DJ and rapper. We were interested in some of the events he hosted in LA that made a large impact on giving back to our community. We wanted to learn more of the pros and cons of dating within the crypto network, and were surprised to hear some of the stories he shared. Let's get started. I think when I first met you, it was at like a crypto tech event or something like that. So, can you tell me a little bit more about how all those things that you're doing, places that you're going, how it's linked to crypto and
New friendship tech. Yeah. Normally you won't find me in places too long that I'm not interested in. I feel like there's an expiration date on things, and that also is like including relationships with people and friendships. But yeah, I've always been a black sheep in the tech world. I'm so not a tech bro or crypto bro, fintech, whatever iteration. But art, music, fashion, and culture I've always been really deep in and surrounded by and immersed in from a contributor side as an artist and an advocate and an activist to a consumer and being a fan first. I have admired from the outside looking in, had my face to the glass, how a lot of the tech world develops products and services. So during the pandemic, I dove headfirst and pretty much Trojan horsed my way into it and found that I have a lot of things that they want from community and culture.
what would you say is your most cringe crypto related dating moment?
Yeesh. For one, there's only three women in crypto. No, I'm just kidding. Or everybody dates the same person. I'm just kidding. I think that's tech altogether. No, the lack of inclusivity is really bothering to me as someone with a women's collective. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I think that there's this perception and idea that because you're in crypto or because you're in tech, you are financially like very well off and established in life with multiple properties and 750 credit score, 800 credit score, blah, blah, blah. And that's not a reality, especially when you're a bootstrap founder and you're literally just like taking everything that you make and pouring it back into what you're building and hoping that somehow, somewhere, some way it will work out. So I don't know. I've had some interesting dating experiences where girls assume my positioning in life. Like, I'm not that guy. Maybe while I was trapping, I was that guy, but I'm not that guy. And then I guess just the perceived part of it too. There's a lot of negative stigmas in crypto and in tech in general. And I don't like to necessarily associate with a lot of people in the space that
Yeah.
share those values. So I try to not even mention I'm a founder or in startup or in tech or in crypto, blockchain, any of it. But unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword. You see a lot of Nepo babies and silver spoon kids that try really hard to act really broke and really poor and struggle mode when like they can afford to fail a million times over and it'll just roll off their backs. So I see the similarities, but they're just not as stark contrast or loud in any other industry that I've seen other than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually a good segue to our next question, which is, so how do you explain your job on dating apps?
Yeah. I typically put down the reality of it is I'm an educator, I'm a community builder, I'm a facilitator, I do business development, I do brand partnerships, I do marketing, but I like to keep it real. I come from hip hop and underground after hour warehouse parties where it's very, there's authentic culture and then there's synthetic culture, which I think really took off after Boiler Room and a lot of the in-home DJ sets and just bouncing around behind the DJ and like people just trying to be seen. So I think authenticity is a character trait that translates into everything that I do. So my profiles on any of those platforms it doesn't lean into the tech side.
So I do have a quick question about that then.
Yeah.
So you know how you said you don't like to mention that you're a founder or mention like crypto that often?
Yeah.
So if you have a dating profile, then would you write any of that stuff down there? Or is it just, oh yeah, like I do some important stuff?
And we can find out. I'm not too hard to find. And if people really want to research me, they can. But yeah, it says educator, artist, and founder, your conduit agency, multidisciplinary artist, emotionally available, clear communicator, genuine, warm, creative, resilient, solid, safe, reliable, kind, empathetic, love words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch.
Okay.
Key to my heart, philanthropic passion projects with purpose. And it's the MC in me too, that it's, you could hear it in the way that it's written. Philanthropic passion projects with purpose.
All the
But
P's all
yeah,
lined up.
artist, advocate, activist, grass is green where you water it, vanity metrics are in social media, learn the code and speak the language. There's nothing too off-putting here.
And he seemed
Single.
just gonna say it.
But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like just keeping it under, keeping it block, keeping it transparent, authentic. You want to be your best authentic self. And I think the stigmas that are attached to things that you can't control just work negatively for you. So with all of that stuff, I don't mind telling people like, yeah, I work my ass off trying to make nothing into something in a world of the unknown that moves at the speed of light. So
That's good.
I try.
Yeah. So, is there a type when it comes to people who date crypto founders?
Broke. I'm just kidding. Because the funny part is it depends on what the market looks like, what the market sentiment is, if they use like different trading features and have stop losses and limits placed on their money. And if they're smart, there's a lot of people that are very wealthy, but very ignorant. And there's a lot of people that are very wealthy and very intelligent. And crypto is a space that instead of being or having proof of financial literacy to the point of having $250,000 in liquidity put aside to be deemed a fully accredited investor, it's a sky casino that anybody can participate in and find a windfall. It might fail 1,000 times and win that one time 100,000x and change their life forever. So I think as far as like from the outside looking in for women or men looking to date people in the same industry, they try to find stability because it's a very volatile space. It has a lot of instability, which leads to a lot of degeneracy and there's no crying in the casino. But with all of that, I think it almost builds an interesting character that either gets weaker and is interested in just riding coattails in the same way as somebody would find. So there's a lot of games and manipulation and things that I think are just ugly and nasty to see on the social engineering side. But I do think that's what makes the genuine and sincere people that you find to be even that much more valuable.
I think that's a really great point. Do you think communication is an issue in a lot of relationships then?
I think communication is one side of it. Comprehension is a huge other side of it. I think there's big problems with comprehension and it's going to increase as we get into artificial intelligence and AI conversations because people are using things like ChatGPT and Claude to trauma dump and diary in. I say that a lot of people that have unhealthy relationships have poor communication skills or bad listening and comprehension skills, and they don't learn from their mistakes. So they repeat them until somebody says, okay, I'm done. I'm over it. People that have really healthy relationships, I think, know how to clearly communicate and say, hey, I really wish you would not stay out until 6 a.m. partying, drinking off your ass, and then doing lines of cocaine and blah, blah, blah. Probably not the best look, especially when you got to roll into bed and then wake back up in 3 hours and then we got to go meet the parents or you got to go teach the school or whatever.
Wow.
Not a. But I think just as a really bold example, I think a lot of people don't communicate because they don't want the retaliatory part and they don't want to put themselves over the barrel. And I think that's unfortunate. It's how a lot of relationships die.
Yeah.
Prematurely because people either don't communicate enough or they over communicate. And that all goes back into self-awareness and maturity.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. In your opinion, what's more volatile, crypto markets or modern relationships?
Oh God.
based on some of the things you've said.
Crypto markets, you don't have control over. Relationship markets, you do have control over.
That's a great answer.
And if you can't change it, then you shouldn't get mad about it. And both are based on participation. I think, like, just an efficiency's sake, and I think I had this conversation with you briefly back when I was like thinking about doing singles mixers again or dating events.
Okay.
The efficiency in my head is thinking like crypto trading and everything fast, fast. I want it now, instant grat, push on demand. And that's the microwave society that we're in right now. And it's only getting faster.
Yeah.
Where in the past, we didn't really have that ability or opportunity. We almost have too many options and too many platforms. So we have too many versions of ourselves syndicated across them all. And it's very difficult to find a partner through third party platforms and apps because of that. And then in person, we've been so accustomed to meeting people on a regular basis through social media, through things that we like, that the in person intimacy and connection is almost diluted a little bit. And so you have to work harder and spend more money and time, which then makes it even more of a daunting situation. And I think that people are getting into relationships later. They're having kids later and less. They're having less sex and intimacy. They're getting into relationships because they have to and not because they want to, because of the cost of living.
Yeah.
And the economy. And also just feeling like they need someone, maybe if it's just once a month.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of similarities to cryptocurrency being hot and cold, fast and slow. When the season's good, when it's summer, people are out and they're buzzing. When it's a bull market, they're in it, right? When it's March until September and you got Coachella and EDC and Stagecoach and South by, and people are out. But when the weather is dictating a sentiment or market conditions, the dating market conditions also suffer in that sense of it's cold and it's gloomy and it's dark and it's raining and it's snowing. You don't have any incentive to go to your local bar, lounge, restaurant, or nightclub to sit alone and hope to find somebody that you deem decent enough for yourself.
Yeah.
So I think we're in like a really not great place for people to build new relationships and rapport and friendships
Yeah.
based on occupation or industry. So yeah, it's something I'm trying to figure out. That's why I was like, with efficiency, it's okay. Let me just create like a 60-person speed dating thing, and in turn, 1 out of 60 chances for me, or 1 out of 30. There's got to be, but and if people don't want to spend the time or money or effort or energy to actually dig deep with people, it's like with crypto, like there's a lack of conviction. If something goes down and everyone else is selling off, then you're probably going down with the ship, or you're selling off to protect yourself. And when it's going up, you're chasing it. Much if this person's blowing up, like people are following the person to the top.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. People can just look at what you do from the outside and judge you. It's like being in the entertainment space. I'm
Yeah.
speaking from like modeling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you don't really like talking about being a founder, but I have so many questions about this.
I don't mind.
So, how has building a crypto company affected your dating life or relationship?
It played a role in my last relationship, which was about 2 years long, and it was 4 years ago at this point, mostly in 2025. But it was like a pandemic relationship, 2020 to 2022. So there are a lot of other forms of obstruction and stuff that just made traditional dating and being in a partnership difficult. But yeah, crypto, blockchain, technology, finance, all of it's very, or should I say, it can change directions very rapidly. It's not like a restaurant industry where it's okay if the price of a good like rice or wheat or something gets chopped down or increased, that will hinder a business. If people can't go outside and you can't take in business, then that hinders your business. If there's a road closure, that hinders your business. So there's just a lot to it that I think takes away from a partnership and a matter of stability if they aren't flexible. And I think there's a beauty in being able to educate others with information.
So, just out of curiosity, have you ever had to explain Web3 to someone on a first date?
Yep, 100,000%. Because I have so many different like directions I can go with people. I try my best to keep things in layman's terms and make them digestible and break them down. And that's why I do host a lot of these leading conferences on emerging tech and innovation because, and I think a lot of it has to do with me rapping and writing music to understand how to more effectively communicate ideas and messages, and same thing with art and identity and branding. But I think, yeah, each time that I get asked on these different romantic situations, I just break it down to the read, write, web one, web two, web three, where the start of the internet, everything was read only. And the second portion was write. And so you could publish. And that's where social media came in. And now we're into ownership and identity. And we are off ramping from platforms. We're exporting our data. We're seeing that if TikTok died tomorrow, or if our phone lost all of our photos or contacts, it's either on the cloud or ideally backed up on a hard drive. That's the future. The future is now and tomorrow. But there's a lot to learn from the past to get to the present. Yeah, I make the understanding of the Web3, blockchain, metaverse, NFT, smart contract. I just break it down and make it really nugget sized for anybody to take in.
So where can we find more information about how all of this is broken down or explained or
Good luck. Yeah.
Okay.
No, on my social media. But no, I think that's one of the things that led to doing what I do. I built a really big brand around education in the space. And the only way there's going to be adoption is if there is education. Those materials need to be accessible. The inaccessible materials, unfortunately, are now created on stages that have inaccessible pricing. So, for example, the conference that I'm going to do my party at May 2nd in Dubai, their top ticket is $5,000.
Oh,
Their lowest ticket is like 1,600 or 1,200 or something like that. So not only do you need the flight and the hotel or Airbnb, then transportation back and forth, and food and drinks, it's a lot. And I can't imagine a 16 or 18-year-old me being able to fathom getting the money together to do something like that,
yeah.
even if I'm so gung-ho and interested in learning. So what I do is I produce events all over the world that are adjacent to these leading conferences that are free entry, free drinks, free food from start to finish, with at least 2 women per stage per panel. They start with education, transition into entertainment, and the after party is equally inclusive with the way that the music programming is done. So,
And do you fund these stations?
yeah. So every event is funded by sponsors, advertisers, exhibitors, speakers, whatever way that I can round up the money to make it happen. But realistically, in the future, the whole thing will be a sustainable ecosystem where, much like when you go into an arcade, you convert your cash into a coin and then you play the games, right? So imagine you go into a music festival or a conference and you get a wristband, and that wristband has an NFC chip on it or has some form of value prop. Maybe that's an open bar wristband, open bar plus food plus backstage and VIP and camping based on the color. So I'm just reinventing the wheel in the way that events are done by democratizing information at scale, basically making all of it accessible, inclusive, diverse, all of that, and then B, redistributing wealth. So by making events free entry, free drinks, free food, that doesn't mean that I don't make a profit on these events. So what I do is after they're done, I take a portion of the earnings and I redistribute that equally back to the attendees. So it's almost like getting paid to participate. Rewards programs at Starbucks and Subway and places you frequently visit. I take care of people at my parties and raves that continue to show up. So it's coming from that culture of what you give is what you receive. And there's a way of making it sustainable long term. I'm proving that in a scalable way all over the world right now.
I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Yeah, I haven't either. That's why I'm like motivated and inspired to continue pushing forward on it, because not only do I know it can work, and I don't like using can or if or try or should or would, it will work and it is working. And I've tested it in LA, Chicago, New York, Miami, Vegas, Korea, Japan, etc. So I know it'll work. I just need the support financially, which would basically mean I would have to do a fundraise and set up the infrastructure. And that's where the tech finance guy that people paint me to be, they're like, so many people, your network's so big, you're all these stages, you're speaking after Gary Vee and before Mark Cuban. Why can't you like snap your fingers and round up millions of dollars to make this thing? It's just not that simple, right? The infrastructure, and I'm not supposed to be a chief revenue officer. I'm not meant to be a CFO, but yeah, I'm learning as I go and building as I fly and as I sail. And I just love the fact that A, I can't find anybody doing what I'm doing. B, I can't find anybody that's previously done it. And C, I know the impact and value that it will have on knowledge and education offering, as well as entertainment and connections. And the bottom line is like technology and social media used to bring people closer together. Now it pushes us further apart. So the only way to really beat the algorithms is in-person experiences like this until you're replaced by a robot, or I am, which is coming soon apparently. But yeah, so that's really what it's about. It's connection, it's community, it's culture, it's compensation, it's cultivation, it's a lot of C words. Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about that? If you were ever replaced by a robot, would you rather see it in person first, like how you look like, how you sound, or would you want to have that robot like there or built when you're dead?
Yeah. There's so many different use cases. And like right now I'm training AI to my large language models, and I'm training AI in a few different ways. I've been teaching one to rap. So I've been feeding it all of my favorite songs, all of my favorite rap lyrics, all of my patterns, rhyme schemes, formats, cadences, and rhyming dictionaries, vocabulary books, the whole thing. And basically just shadow boxing, if you will, and
Mhm.
freestyling with it to see what it can spit back. And now a lot of that it's giving me back is equal to, I wouldn't say better yet, knock on wood, but what it's giving me is equal to or a little less than what I can already produce on my own, but it creates a
Mm.
skeleton or an outline. So I think putting that inside of a physical walking, talking, moving thing isn't far-fetched or far off. It's happening as we speak in different places in the world. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll definitely see a lot of that. And we'll probably see a lot of those doing social selling as well. We'll see them live on TikTok or Instagram or whatnot, or whatever else. You're going to see the robot influencer. So I think, yeah, I don't necessarily have a preference. I just want to make sure that my name, image, likeness, personal brand, and authenticity and character of self is not absorbed by this machine. But that's what new friendship tech is as well. It's the intersection and connection of human and tech, and that's what my logo is as well. It's adapted from the Arm and Hammer like cross of arms, but it's a human one and a robot one, which we're very much at that intersection right now. And pretty soon, I don't know if the human will be obsolete, but it sounds like universal basic income couldn't come any quicker.
People are not reproducing, so
Make babies, practice. But yeah, no, it's a problem. I will say the irony of it is, I think for a long time, people were afraid of overpopulation. And that's where a lot of like abortion law came into place and things in women's rights organizations. And there's a pretty interesting history around like all of that stuff. And then in countries like Japan, you have very low birth rates. And in turn, even the way that our systems are with schools, like schools, we're educating kids on how to be a sufficient adult, but not so much to be doing your own thing and having this creative passion actually convert to capital, but to make sure that you have the skill set to work in any of these assembly lines or factories and just keep things running business as usual so the
Yeah.
top can continue and the bottom can stay there. So we're going through a really interesting digital renaissance in a lot of ways. And I would consider it all revolutionary tech. And I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it. I always say, don't get starstruck, always keep your guard up. There's a reason to be apprehensive to all of this stuff too, because there isn't really clarity on what these models are trained off of and the sources of the technology and the usage beyond, because it's all unknown. The future of it is all unknown.
Yeah.
So there's a yin and a yang with all of it, and it's about balance and just not falling behind.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I think I was asked a question on if I would trust AI or robots in general to educate my kids if I ever have kids. And I kind of question that because if I was to depend on AI in general to just teach children or kids in general, then what's the point? Or because technically I'm supposed to be the one AI is relying on for information, right? So like then I'm getting behind. So no one's really moving forward there.
It just depends on, do you want your, I think that the whole childcare industry is crazy because of AI. It's going to change the way that kids are raised. Because if I can put Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Outliers and a bunch of Naval or Gary Vee or whatever, if I want to make my kid a super consumer of marketing, advertising, promotion, sales, real estate, finance, blah, blah, blah. I mean, training my robot to reiterate all of this stuff in the best way possible is just going to ideally have the kid absorb all of that as a sponge as well. But there's no competition, and a lot of this is reiteration from the same sources, like you said. So I think that's where the human factor is really important, and that's what's going to diversify people. If everybody has the same training manual, we're all going to do it just a little bit differently. But if we all have different manuals and different guides, I think that's the importance of blockchain in a lot of ways, and sustainability and longevity of information, historical data and information, as we have people in power renaming gulfs and oceans and different countries. And so I think there's a lot of crossover and tangential parts to all of it that makes sense. And I think the intimacy side too is if somebody can ask a question to their thing over here before going to you and pitching you on it, that might result in missing a fight and not having some conflict. So if I can see how you might respond if I ask over here first, this also saved the time of me asking like 10 friends. But does that change the way that I operate and act in the future? Probably. It'll train different behavioral parts if that's consistently my voice of reason as opposed to this and this.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I think it's good to be strongly opinionated.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think the loudest in the room are always the smartest, but I do think you do need polarizing figures with integrity to guide with knowledge and experience and foresight and just consciousness. So
Consciously strong.
it'd be nice if that was the masses and we put people on pedestals and in places of power. It's rapping people on places of power. Should write this down. Yeah, we put people on pedestals and places of power who have perfected the craft of a virtue signal and social engineering and more. So yeah, who knows what the source material will be for the future of we.
I just don't I don't want to think about that part too much, too deeply.
push comes to shove, eventually that's where it's at. And I think, again, the human connection is so important and needs to be reemphasized on how important it is, which the doom scroll brain rot is not, it's not going to cut it very much longer. Like, people
Yeah.
are already suffering from major social anxiety and depression and all sorts of other emotional problems because of just constantly consuming and not even understanding how the algorithms work and how to reset theirs. Any given day, I feel like you could walk down the street, take a guy's phone, and go to his explore page and probably find ass and titties, not fighting, gambling, and probably some toxic future memes, maybe. I don't know. And then I don't know what is on your explore page, but I would assume that I'm not going to assume. We'll leave it at that.
You can see my explore page. That's fine with me.
Social hygiene is important. You don't want to get caught having something pop up in a meeting when you're trying to take someone's info. But yeah, like, most of this is pretty clean, easy. I wouldn't trip. I'd put it like that. If we were in a relationship and I saw your explore page, I wouldn't trip. It's what I would expect in terms of communication, compassion, intimacy, little romance, health and fitness, beauty, all that stuff. And mine is literally all my occupations of art, music, fashion, tech, cats. What? Lots of cats, lots of dogs, lots of art. But yeah. Damn, I said I got a lot of bitches and pussy in my, got cats and dogs all over the place. It's a joke, my friends. I got the tuxedo cats. I've got black labs. Got shaved ones. Got furry ones. They all have 4 legs. We're still talking cats and dogs. I'm done.
Okay.
That's my time.
I was just gonna ask if they walk around on 2 legs too, but it's okay.
In these streets, yes. 100%. Just got to not pick up a stray. I have fleas from the last relationship. Yeah.
Okay.
But I understand it's hard out here. Everyone's using these like therapy apps and getting bad advice from social media on how to date and not be socially awkward in public. And it's sad to see. And I think even more deeply into it, a lot of the way that my perspective is, my thoughts on all of that stuff is probably by listening to a lot of women. Like, I started a women's collective called Daughters LA, a showcase for today's women of tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw that.
Before the pandemic, I was looking at building that into an international women's music festival. And I was already talking to Megan Thee Stallion and her manager. So I could have FKA Twigs and her agent, Parker. I was trying to get Queen Latifah and Flavor Unit. So pretty much everything that I just saw happen at Coachella, at least on the women's side, I was like, oh, this is fun. And then there's another women's summit coming up in May called Empower Her that I'm helping promote. And then, yeah, there's a thing called Dream Girl and the Dream Girl Producer Bag, which is a music bag that you can basically have a studio on the go that my friend Scarlett created. I help her with shows. I think I've just been around a lot of that feminine energy that I get to listen a lot and learn a lot and see a lot. I get to see how guys choose to or not and be disappointed and not surprised.
So, in regards to how you view these actions, what are some from these men that you find disappointing?
Like I said, just chauvinistic approaches and attitudes towards women and how they choose to communicate and interact. I think there's just like a whole, there's been a minute of romanticizing what a partnership looks like. And I think that was very much narrated by film and TV for a long time. And then reality TV came in, and then we started becoming reality TV with social media. And with that, we started condoning and being a little looser with how we choose to allow people to speak to us. And in turn, becoming a little bit more desensitized to it, therefore being more tolerable with it. And obviously being able to DM people and unsend a message or edit a message or whatever. And the idea of screenshotting, there's just so much that leads to the ideas of infidelity and just lack of transparency and trust, which has led to so much insecurity and jealousy that I think a lot of guys are hurt and they also don't want to get hurt and they don't want to communicate about it. So that kind of comes out in negative ways sometimes. And unfortunately, like I've seen it physically where I've had to cut people off because of abuse situations where I'm just like, I don't condone this. And it goes both ways too. I've seen women beat the fuck out of guys and leave them like crippled in different ways too, physically, financially, mentally, and more. And so nobody's condoned or off the hook, but I just think that the bar's really low to be really amazing. And a lot of people just don't want to put forth the effort. So the common ground of both sides is learn how to be a better you. Just at the end of the day.
So it starts with you.
And see what you did there. Yes, it starts with you wholeheartedly. I honestly, I feel like sometimes when I'm out, I guess I just get drawn into people watching because when I'm behind a stage like this or I'm on a mic like this, I get to look at every single person in the room and how they're choosing to interact with one another. And just from like body language and general interactions, I think there's a disconnect, and that's happened because of phones and accessibility. And sometimes too much accessibility is bad. So it's just all of that. It all plays different roles and parts. And as somebody that definitely has lived all over LA and formerly in Austin and in New York and travel the world, like it's not an isolated thing to LA's dating scene or New York's dating scene. It's definitely a global, don't want to say pandemic, but I'll say epidemic.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And speaking of which, like, how would you actually describe the LA dating culture?
Mm. Have you ever seen like a fire on the street set by a homeless person to stay warm? So if you can imagine a trash can on fire, that picturesque scene that I'm painting is pretty much the dating scene in every major metropolitan city right now. No, it's not that bad. But I think life is what you make it. It's as bad or as good as you want it to be. If you're going to places that you know are not good watering holes for you to meet new people, see new things, and have fun in the process, then you're probably not going to find what you're looking for. You have to put yourself outside of yourself and into different places that aren't your comfort zone to explore. I think if you're in a city where the bar is really high and people are maybe a little bit more pretentious or superficial, you might want to go to a place that, you know, the bar is a little bit lower and your 10 is more like a 6 or your 6 is more like a 2. And I think one thing that I've recognized specifically for LA is we used to, I want to say, you used to go out and there was a lot more glitz and glam. The reason for that being we have all the top modeling agencies outside of Europe and New York. The weather's always great, so you can pick and choose if you want to pick fashion over function or vice versa.
Yeah, and I think another thing is that like beauty standards have gone down in LA a lot.
Yeah, we don't have a legitimate LA fashion week like New York, Milan, or Paris, and we don't really have even our TV, film, and entertainment role has changed dramatically because of social media
Yeah,
and Netflix and Hulu, things of that nature. So it's just the nature of the beast. And I think once you get over kind of the idea of what you consider pretty, because we all have types, but attractive and beauty and all that is just very different for everybody. But I think that's where, again, once you start to figure out like, oh, people that I like this music, this art, this culture, these books, or this comedy, and the majority of them are concentrated at these festivals or these summits or these conferences. That's where they find their tribes and typically find their partners, I think. Otherwise, it's Hail Marys and shooting darts from the sidelines of the internet, hoping that you have a conversion or a touchdown. But yeah, it's interesting. I went the last 3 years, I've gone like back to back from Korea to Singapore to Japan. And I've talked to girls and dated a little bit, each place using translation tools.
Duolingo.
In Singapore, they speak English. But either way, I think at the end of the day, it's like anything in life. You got to learn the code if you want to speak the language in any industry, in any walk of life. And sometimes that's a love language. Sometimes that's PHP, HTML, or Solidity, or Rust, or a luxury, high-end, couture fashion.
Yeah.
I speak a lot of languages. Multilingual.
You mean like body language, right?
All
Like,
the languages, yes. All of them.
yeah, at least it works. They understood what you meant. I think that those were all the questions that we had for today. But yeah, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad I didn't scare you away and we didn't have to cut early.
Oh, one last thing is, so do you have any like social media or anything that you wanted to share with our audience?
Yep. You can find me by typing in who is Eric Spivak, ERICSPIVAK, question mark, into any searching tool that you use from ChatGPT to Google. I like to have people ask that question because it gives you a bit of a summary and description that defines me a little bit more, as opposed to just choose your own adventure through my socials. But yeah, I'm Eric Spiv or Eric Spivak on every platform, from SoundCloud to you name it. And yeah, been great.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can support our cause by going to buymeacoffee.com/Anna Yoo. That's YOO. More support means more episodes. The link is in the episode description. Also, don't forget to visit our Instagram page for exclusive behind-the-scenes content at It Starts With You. And remember, it starts with you.